thanking and commending the Sikh congregation for this opportunity and for this initiative to allow us come and share our experiences, what Christians are going through in northern Nigeria, more so in northeastern part of Nigeria, the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. The persecution of Christians is a global phenomenon. It's not just in Nigeria. And I think for good people everywhere to remain silent is not only complacency, but I think it is conspiracy. Because Christians are going through difficulties and challenges in different parts of the world today. And sometimes people don't want us to talk about it. People don't want us, and even governments don't want us to talk about it. I give you an example. I was at the Oslo conference recently in Norway. I represented Caritas Nigeria there. And some of the organizers told me, you know, you are going to Norway. And I had to moderate the session on food and nutrition in northern Nigeria and the Lake Chad region. And I was told not to dress as a priest. That because Norway is a secular country, and they wouldn't want somebody to be dressed as a clergy. I told them, look, my priesthood is not just an identity. It is a personality. And so you hear a lot of things, especially from the West, countries that are even founded on Christian values, keeping quiet and remaining silent in the face of this persecution. So I'm here to share with you our experiences in Nigeria. I'm sorry that the PowerPoint is not working because I have a lot of images to support my presentation, but we'll make them available. Let me begin with a story of Rev Father Michael Gojira, who was ordained a priest for the Catholic Diocese of Maiduguri on 18th July 1992. And he was killed or martyred on February 18th, 2006. The life of Father Michael was that since his ordination, he has worked as the coordinator of the Justice, Peace and Development arm of the diocese. And if we have had the opportunity to see the map of Nigeria, the diocese I come from is in the northeast, and it is the largest in terms of landmass in Nigeria. And is located in the heart of a Muslim majority. And so Father Michael, as the coordinator of Justice, Peace and Development, worked all these years, mostly in Muslim communities and villages, providing water, livelihood, helping in agriculture, and different areas. So the beneficiaries of his work, 70% of them are Muslim communities. And on February 18, 2006, in reaction to the Danish cartoons in Denmark of the Prophet Muhammad, there were coordinated attacks within the city of Maiduguri. And Father Michael was trapped in his church by Muslims, youth. And he had a conversation with them. They went into the church and out, and they were threatening to burn down the church. He begged them not to. Because these were young people he actually even knows. Whenever he drives out, he sees them, they greet him. And these were the very young people that hacked him to death. He was hacked with knives and machetes, and then they used tires to set him ablaze, and he was burned to ashes. The people he has worked for all his years as a priest were the very people that took away his life. Now, the aim of this our conversation is to call your attention, because sometimes you listen to news or you read the news about Africa and Nigeria, but you do not really get the details of what is happening. And so this conversation is to call your attention and the international community to the endangered situation of Christians in northern Nigeria as a result of the impact of persistent violence, discrimination, exclusion, and other various forms of persecution. These realities have been compounded by the menace of the Boko Haram insurgency and nomadic Fulani herdsmen. Both of them are Islamic organizations of the deadliest type, championing the cause of Islamism and Islamic expansion, not only in Nigeria, but not only in the north, but in the entire Nigeria and beyond. Now, within the last decade, the persecution and the attack on Christians has become very intense and severe. But before then, there is a colonial burden or legacy that was there in northern Nigeria before independence, and how the British organized that country and how they left it created certain precedents that are still in existence today. Now, before the issue of Boko Haram and the attacks of the Fulanis, the history of the persecution of Christians in northern Nigeria is well documented. Christians have been persecuted in areas like denial of land to build places of worship. In northern Nigeria, it is difficult for the government to grant you a piece of land to build a church. And so the last, as far as I can remember, the last certificate of occupancy that was given to the church, to a building in the name of a church, was in 1979. So for you to erect a place of worship, you have to go under some kind of a pseudonym. Now, even in educational opportunities, in most of the states in northern Nigeria, the teaching of Christian religious education is not allowed, it's prohibited. While you have schools, government schools, that are flooded with Islamic scholars and teachers. Denial of employment and promotion because of the faith they profess. Christians in government offices, it is difficult for you to even secure employment and job opportunities. They use the Islamic faith as a bait. If you convert, then we offer you job. And even when you are employed, you suffer from lack of promotion. So Christians have been living with these difficulties in the north for so many years. Denial of access to political office or political exclusion, especially in governance. Again, Christians are at the backdrop. Even in our higher institutions, there are particular courses like medicine, law, that our children, Christian children, are denied because they are simply Christians. And in the wake of this Boko Haram insurgency, we have witnessed a forceful abduction and kidnap and marriage of our Christian daughters. Forceful abduction. Even as I speak to you now, we have about 5 issues that we as a diocese were dealing with before I even came here. So the history of our persecution is well documented in northern Nigeria. And again, as I said, people will not want us to talk about it. Even government will not want us to talk about it. But we continue to suffer these things in silence. Now, if the map of northern Nigeria as you can see, this is the religious landscape of Nigeria. It is said that we are about 170 million people. I don't know how accurate that figure is, but we may be more or less. Now, the green zone, those states in the green zone are where you have the large Muslim majority in Nigeria. And let me also say that in all those states, they have indigenous population that are Christians. In all those Muslim states, they have indigenous people that are Christians. Now, the rest of the states are largely Christian populated states. Of course, there are Muslims also, especially in the Middle Belt. So that is the composition. And those, in 1999, 12 states out of the 36 states adopted the Sharia law. And so if you look at the area of Yobe State, Borno State, Adamawa State, Gombe, that forms the northeastern part of Nigeria, and that is where Maiduguri diocese is located. Now that is the epicenter of the Boko Haram insurgency. Of course, there are Christians even in the south and in the west, but they are in the minority. And politically, sometimes when you read, we are told that there are more Muslims in Nigeria. But I think that is a political figure. Left for me, Nigeria should be 50% Christians, 40% Muslim, and 10% African traditional religious worshippers. But reverse is the case. But that is for political reasons. So if you understand the composition of Nigeria, it will help you understand the dynamics of what is happening in Nigeria. Now, just some quick pictures. This is the bishop who would have been here, Oliver Domain, standing in front of one of his churches that have been destroyed by the Boko Haram. And let me just say that as a diocese, these are just some of the images of the level of destruction, that we have suffered. Now, as a diocese, based on the records we have, over 5,000 Catholics have been killed. We have over 200 churches destroyed. We have over 90,000 Catholics displaced. We have over 20 rectories destroyed by the insurgency. 3 convents razed down. 4 clinics and hospitals destroyed. Over 25 schools, all destroyed by the Boko Haram, and this is just a Catholic loss. There are other Christians that have also suffered other losses. But you know, the narration of the Boko Haram has changed over time. Initially, Christians were the target, they were attacked. But along the line, since it has evolved into a terrorist group, even Muslims are also being attacked. And so you have churches and mosques also being destroyed. You have homes and business places of both Muslims and Christians also being destroyed. So the narration has changed over time. And so today we can say both Christians and Muslims have suffered the loss. Now, the statistics of persecution and violence against Christians worldwide has become unprecedented in recent times. Christians in the Middle East, Western, Central and Southern Asia, North and East Africa have had their own share of this persecution. But worst of them all is the current phenomenon of persistent violence and persecution of Christians in northern Nigeria. Now, the year 2014 witnessed the worst of these genocidal atrocities. An electronic Christian magazine, Prophecy Newswatch, estimated that out of every 100 Christians killed around the world in 2014, 64 of them were Nigerians, and mainly from northern Nigeria. In this same year, Amnesty International submitted that Boko Haram was the worst and deadliest terror group in the entire world, more brutal and rugged than the ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or Taliban. Now there are facts that you need to know on Christians in northern Nigeria. The international community needs accurate facts and not propaganda, especially in giving out figures. I just shared with you about the population of Nigeria, which is actually very, very controversial. And sometimes from the news media, you don't really get the facts. And from the government, you cannot get the facts. So sometimes you have confusing figures and facts about realities that are happening. It is good for you to know that Christians in northern Nigeria, they are well over 30 million. Well over 30 million. And so we form over 31.5%. And so this is a substantial minority. Now, it is on account of this social and religious facts of being a minority that they suffer persecution. The following are quite evident. The politically motivated communal clashes following the 2011 post-election crisis, the Islamic Boko Haram insurgency in their quest to establish a caliphate in the northeastern region of Nigeria, and the Islamic nomadic Fulani herdsmen invasions aimed at forcefully dislodging and occupying the ancestral homes and lands belonging to the aborigines or natives of the Middle Belt region of Nigeria, who are predominantly a Christian population. All these are clear examples of premeditated and targeted attacks, marginalization, and discrimination against Christians. You have heard so much about the Chibok girls. That made serious news globally. It became a global campaign. But let me say that those of us who live in the northeastern part of Nigeria, especially in the city of Maiduguri, we were saddened to some extent by the attention that the abduction of the Chibok girls received. Because we know that there are thousands of girls of their own age who are in the hands of these terrorists. There are thousands of men and women who have been abducted and taken away by these terrorists, and the Nigerian government and the international community is silent about them. Perhaps because these were young school girls who were abducted at the same time in a school, and given the priority that the world gives to education, and more so the sympathy for the fact that they were girls and women. But there are thousands of them, even as I speak to you now, that are still in captivity. Now, just a few days back, there was a commemoration of 3 years of this abduction. Over 200 girls, mainly Christians, were abducted in their dormitory in Chibok. Out of the 279 girls that were abducted, over 80% of them were Christian girls. They were Christians. There are just few Muslims among them. Now, out of that number, initially 57 of them were able to escape from the forest, from the hands of these abductors. And I had the privilege to meet those girls, the 57. I had the opportunity to meet them, to counsel them, because the government was taking them to schools, to various schools then. We were in the government house. I don't know if in one of the pictures you will see me in white cassock. The governor of Borno State invited us as Christian leaders to go and talk to them, to counsel them, to advise them, so that they can be strong to look to the future now, given the opportunity that the government is giving them. They are sending them to school. Now, about 2-3 months ago, you heard 21 of these girls were released by the Boko Haram. And as I speak to you now, 195 of them are still in the hands of these terrorists. Where are they? Does the Nigerian government doesn't know their whereabouts? Does the international community doesn't know their whereabouts? And where is there this silence over the fate of these girls? It is very strange that a large number of girls can be abducted without a trace by the intelligence community of Nigeria and the neighboring countries of Chad, Niger, and Cameroon, and even the international community. I find it very, very strange. Perhaps they are captors, and those behind it know where they are. But what effort is being made to reunite these girls and many others with their various families? While we continue to pray, we must also act. Now, the federal government of Nigeria and that of the states in northern Nigeria have never taken a strong constitutional and political stand that guarantees the safety, security, rights, and freedom of Christians everywhere in northern Nigeria. Now, to buttress this fact, the research shows that between 2006 and 2014, an estimated 11,500 Christians have been killed. Over 1.3 million Christians have been displaced, and 13,000 churches have been destroyed or abandoned. The most affected Christian communities are in northern Adamawa, Borno, Kano, and Yobe states. Now let me just say, Maiduguri Diocese comprises of the whole of Yobe state, the whole of Borno state, and part of Adamawa state. And that is why, as these terrorists captured one town over another, as they moved in their campaign, as a diocese, we suffered a lot of destruction. And as a result, so many people have been displaced.